Hey guys, this is Miss Kalna. I am just dropping in to give you a little bit of a rundown of what we went over today. Today is Monday, January 11th. So if you missed class today, this video is for you to kind of show you what we did in class. We started off by just finishing up the last little bit of the story of Monkey's Paw. We have already read it, but we wanted to just kind of get the last bit of annotation down. So I'm going to go over to this so that you can see some of the annotations we did in class today. We really only focused on this last little section of story right here. And while this is a larger portion of the text from the story, it really kind of takes place in only about a minute of time. So this is when things in the story are going to really start to heat up. This is definitely the climax of our story. And to give you a little backstory, the Whites have just made their second wish. So this was the White's second wish here when he said he wishes his son alive again. So I will type that in here for us. Now, Mr. White did not want to make this wish. This was kind of Mrs. White's idea. He was very reluctant because he does not trust the paw, as he should not, because as we learned at the beginning of the story, the paw has a sneaky way of taking things that you think it's going to do and twisting them. So he raises his hand and wishes, "I wish my son alive again." And we're going to have a couple paragraphs where nothing really happens. And this is where your author is going to really start building that suspense. And then it's going to kind of come to a really big high point right here, when Mr. White is trying to go downstairs to get another candle because the one upstairs has gone out. And he is going to hear a sound at the front door. A knock is going to resound at the front door. Now, we can only assume that this is Herbert. It does not actually tell us who is at the door, but we're going to make the assumption that it is Herbert. Then we're going to enter the section where Mr. and Mrs. White are going to kind of start this screaming match with each other about what they're supposed to do. Mrs. White, of course, wants to go downstairs and open the door. Mr. White is saying absolutely not. And we have this really kind of telling moment right here where Mr. White is going to say this line right here in 138, where he says, "For God's sake, don't let it in." And this is super important because he uses the word "it" when he's referring to his son Herbert, rather than Herbert or my son, like Mrs. White is doing. And what this is going to do is it's going to dehumanize who Herbert is. It's going to take away his humanity in that moment and show you that Mr. White does not view this as his son. He views it as a thing that the paw has brought back, and this thing cannot be trusted. Then this next scene is going to take place where two of our characters are in two different parts of the house. Mr. White is going to be upstairs with no light. It's pitch dark. Mrs. White is going to be downstairs trying to get to the front door to let Herbert in. She is fumbling with the lock, realizes she cannot reach the top latch, so she's going to have to use a chair to drag it over and to reach the top latch of the door to unlock the door completely. And the second that she unlocks the door, Mr. White is going to find the paw on the floor upstairs. And it tells us that he finally found the paw and he frantically breathed his third and last wish. So this is the last wish that the paw will ever make, because the Whites are the third. Mr. White is the third person to make a wish on this paw. And it told us that 3 people got 3 wishes. So we know that it will no longer work. It will not grant wishes to anybody else. And now remember, he's upstairs, so he can't see what Mrs. White is doing. And he's just going to stop and listen. He's going to feel the cold wind rush up the stairs. And he's going to hear this long wail of disappointment from his wife. And that's going to let him know that there's nothing out there. So he runs downstairs, stands next to her, and they're looking out the front door. And there is just a street lamp flickering on a deserted road. And that is how they know that the third wish worked. Now, we don't have enough of the story yet to know, this is where our story ends. So we don't have anything after this to know, are there any repercussions to this wish? I'm assuming the repercussion is the fact that their son is no longer alive again. And it also brings back this theme of death that the Sergeant Major Morris said at the beginning of the story, when the first man who had the paw, his last wish was for death. Mr. White's last wish is going to be for death as well, but for the death of his son rather than himself. And we call this an ambiguous ending. I typed it right out here for you in the footnote kind of area for you to see. And what this means is we don't have all of the answers to our story. It is ended in a way that we have some loose strings here. We don't actually know what was outside. We don't actually know what Mr. White's third wish was. We just know that there was something knocking. Mr. White made a third wish, and now there's nothing knocking anymore. So we call that an ambiguous ending because we don't really know all the answers. You'll sometimes hear it referred to as a cliffhanger. It's kind of the same thing. So now that you've gotten kind of an understanding of what went on at the end of the story, and remember, if you missed the first part of our discussion, you can find that in the live lesson for Wednesday, January 6th from last week. You'll see the recording from class there where we went through the first part of the story and almost all of the story. All right. The next thing I want to show you is what your homework is going to be this week. You are going to have this monkey's paw analysis page to do. So if you go into Google Classroom, it should be the first thing that's posted in Google Classroom. You can click on that there, and it will take you to your instructions for that. This is where it is. It's going to give you your instructions here, and it's going to give you your document here. Each of you have a document that is assigned to you. So when you click on your document, it will make the copy for you. And at the top, it will look like this, but it'll have your name in the front of it. And these are your instructions up here. If you need links to what things like definitions of like foreshadowing, illusion, suspense, you can click here. If you need to get to the text of the monkey's paw, which you probably will because you're going to want to copy and paste, you can find the link to the PDF anywhere that you see the monkey's paw written in blue. It'll take you right to there. And this is an example of what you're going to do. So you're going to find a quote from the monkey's paw that fits one of these pieces of figurative language, foreshadowing, illusion, or suspense. We've been talking about these for the past 2 weeks, so you should be very familiar with them. Remember, you can always go back and read the definitions if you've forgotten. And find one example. You're going to copy and paste a quote directly from the story. Please make sure it's a quote, not a paraphrase. And then you're going to highlight whichever one you have chosen. So for example, this is an example of suspense, so suspense is highlighted. If it was an example of foreshadowing, you would highlight foreshadowing, come up here to the top and click this highlight color, and then choose the color you want to highlight it, and it will highlight it. And then this is super easy. You're not really having to do much here. You're just copy and pasting. This is more of your work section where you are going to type a 2 to 3 sentence answer for why you think the author is using this literary device. What is its purpose? Why do you think W.W. Jacobs thought this was an important thing to make sure was in the text? And you're going to complete 3 examples of those. So you have 1, 2, and 3, and that's it. So it shouldn't really take you too long. You can choose to do an illusion, a foreshadowing, a suspense. You can mix them up if you want. You can do 3 examples of foreshadowing or 3 examples of illusions, whatever you want. Just set it up however you want. When you get done, you're going to make sure you want to hit the turn in button at the top. Mine says share because I'm on the actual document, but yours will say turn in. Make sure you turn that in and we will grade it for you, and it will pop in, your grade will pop in Google Classroom for you. And the last thing that you need to know is about our Socratic Circle or Socratic Seminar that's going to be happening on Wednesday, January 13th. This is a mastery grade, so please make sure you come to class if you can. Our Socratic Seminar is going to be based on these 7 questions. So almost all of you have been a part of our Socratic Seminar before because we did one with our last story of King Midas. We're going to do one with Monkey's Paw just because there's so many good things to talk about in this story. So make sure you familiarize yourself with these questions. I would come to class with some notes already taken on some of these. And be ready to discuss in class. This is not a day where me, Miss Williams, or Mr. McGuffin are going to be talking a lot. This is a day when you are going to be leading the class by talking about your answers to these questions by expounding upon other classmates' answers and such. And yeah, we're just going to kind of see what you guys have found in the story. Also, if you just find something cool about the story that you didn't get to discuss, please know that this is a time when you can do that. Our next thing is just some suggestions to make sure that you are successful on Wednesday. So make sure you're on task when we're in the Socratic seminar. Be prepared to turn your mic on. This isn't a day when we're necessarily going to be utilizing the chat a whole lot. You're going to be unmuting and talking with each other. If you turn your camera on, you're going to get 5 bonus points. So that will definitely help you out. Like I said, make sure your answers are prepared ahead of time. Make sure you're being respectful to others. If you prefer to be called on, like say if like just jumping in a conversation makes you a little nervous, use the raise hand feature and your classmates and I will see that, and we'll make sure that you get a chance to talk. If you do end up being absent on Wednesday, do not fret. An assignment will be posted at the end of the day Wednesday, and I will be tagging all of the students in it who will need it. So if I noticed you were absent today, or if like halfway through the thing, like your internet went out and you disappeared, I will tag you in that assignment. That way you can complete the makeup assignment for full credit. This is the grading criteria for this. So if you want to know how you're going to be graded on it, this is it right here. It's kind of your rubric. So basically, if you are meeting the bare minimum of what you're supposed to do, which is talking at least once and contributing at least once in the discussion, you will get a 90%. If you go a bit above and beyond, and I can tell you're working really hard, you're trying to make sure that you're doing everything you're supposed to, you've come to class prepared, you will get a 100%. If it is less than that, it says like, does not seem prepared for discussion, does not respond to others, does not show respect for other students, that will be a 70%. And remember, you can always get bonus points for just turning your camera on. So you have an ability to make anything from 105 to a 70 on this assignment, or a 0 if you don't contribute at all. As in like you're in there and you don't even contribute in the chat or anything at all. It'd be a 0%. All right, so our kind of checklist for this week, just to remind you, we do have our Socratic Seminar Wednesday. That's what I was just talking about. This analysis that I walked you through earlier is due on Friday. And last week, I gave you guys something called the monkey's paw response, where you had to talk about if you had the monkey's paw, what 3 wishes would you make and how you think they would backfire on you. That is due this Wednesday, so please make sure you get that in. And just a heads up that this 6 weeks is actually ending on Friday. So if you have any missing work, be sure you're kind of crunching down on that this week and getting that turned in. Your family's got an email if you have a failing grade right now. So please understand that they are aware that your grade is not what it's supposed to be if you're missing stuff. We don't have a whole lot of grades in the grade book this 6 weeks, just because of the way that these weeks have fallen with breaks and such. So if you're missing one thing, it's going to greatly affect your grade and make it like pull your grade down a lot. But if you make up that one assignment, it might pull you from a D to an A. So make sure that you're getting everything done that you need to. Remember, all of your quizzes can be taken more than once. So if you don't like the quiz grade you have, take it again and get yourself an A. Hopefully this is everything that you will need. If you have any questions for me, please do not worry about reaching out. We're always here to help. Remember, you can stop by office hours. You can shoot us an email, put something in Google Classroom for us. And hopefully that's everything that you will need. Hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your day.